The zombie apocalypse doesn't kill you in hour one. Dehydration does. Bad water math does. While everyone's fighting over guns and canned food, the smartest survivor is doing something nobody expects. Today, we're breaking down every survival rule that gets skipped in every guide you've ever read, starting with one you can implement in the first 10 minutes of the end of the world. The low-flow water hack. The most useful thing you can do on day one of the apocalypse isn't grabbing a weapon. It's installing a $4 faucet aerator. And I can prove it. A standard faucet pushes 2.2 gallons per minute. A WaterSense rated aerator drops that to 1.5. That's a 32% reduction before you've changed a single behavior. Nobody showers differently. The water just lasts longer. Now run the group math. 10 survivors, 1 week, swapping a standard shower head from 2.5 gallons per minute down to 2.0. That single change saves 157.5 gallons. That's 3 extra days of drinking water for your entire group, and every gallon you don't use is a gallon you don't have to boil or filter. Low flow doesn't just save water, it saves fuel, it saves filter life. The savings compound on themselves, but saving water won't matter much if you can't survive a bite. And for that, you need armor you can find in any garage. Duct tape is armor. Every survival list mentions duct tape for repairs. Patching tents, sealing containers, fixing gear. Nobody mentions that you can wear it. And before you roll your eyes, hear me out, because testing actually backs this up. Layered duct tape, the standard retail kind sitting in every hardware store on Earth, reduces slashing weapon penetration depth by 30 to 50% compared to bare skin. That's not custom military gear. That's a $4 roll from the checkout aisle. Here's where it gets interesting. Thrusting attacks, like a direct bite attempt or a knife stab, encounter even more resistance than slashing because the adhesive layers create structural drag that forces teeth and blades to work harder to punch through. And even when something does penetrate, the adhesive catches it. Blades and teeth get mechanically trapped in the layers, slowing down the entire attack sequence and giving you a window to react. The high priority zones are forearms, shins, and hands. Those are the 3 areas most exposed during any close quarters zombie encounter. A compressed forearm wrap can convert a deep bite into a surface wound. That's the difference between infection and survival. But here's the part nobody talks about. Survivors who wrap up report feeling more confident and making fewer reckless decisions. Better decisions save more lives than armor ever will, and the same roll that's protecting your arms also waterproofs your shelter, seals your containers, repairs your clothing, and secures your weapons. You're not just wearing armor, you're wearing your entire repair kit. But if duct tape armor is your cheapest life insurance, the 48-hour quarantine rule is your most controversial one. The 48-hour quarantine rule. Someone in your group got scratched. They look fine. They feel fine. They're begging you to let them stay. This is exactly the moment that kills entire settlements. Here's the thing. Across nearly every zombie fiction ever made, the incubation window lands between 24 and 72 hours. 48 hours is the critical midpoint, where physiological changes are already happening inside the body, but the person acts completely normal. They move freely, they eat with you, they sleep next to you. And that's what makes them the most dangerous thing in your camp. Pre-symptomatic individuals trigger 0 alarm responses. Nobody flinches. Nobody watches them closely. And that's exactly how entire bases get wiped overnight. But here's the kicker. You cannot build quarantine infrastructure in the emotional heat of the moment. You need a pre-designated isolation space established before anyone gets infected. A separate room, a sectioned building, a marked area at the edge of camp. Because when someone shows up with a scratch on their arm and their kids are standing right there in your group, you will not think clearly. Nobody does. A thermometer and 48 hours of observation catches what the naked eye misses. Elevated pulse above 180 beats per minute, body temperature spiking past 41 degrees Celsius, irregular breathing patterns. All of these appear during the pre-symptomatic window before behavioral changes ever show up. The rule that saves your group is the rule that forces you to lock your friend in a room and watch through a gap in the door. There's no clean version of this. And if you think that emotional weight is heavy, wait until you realize how something as simple as a loose zipper can get you killed. Silence your hardware. When the power grid dies, something happens that nobody thinks about. The ambient noise floor drops to near 0. No cars, no air conditioning units, no electrical hum, nothing. And suddenly, every sound you make becomes a searchable beacon. Picture this. Your group is moving through a cleared neighborhood at dusk. One person's backpack has a loose metal canteen bouncing against a buckle. In the old world, you'd never hear it. In the new world, that rattling is a dinner bell. Here's the thing. A standard 5 kilowatt generator produces about 87 to 89 decibels at 23 feet. That's comparable to standing next to heavy traffic. In a post-collapse environment with zero vehicular noise, that same generator is audible over a mile away, 1 mile, from a single machine. But generators aren't even the biggest problem. It's everything else. Loose gear rattling in your pack, squeaking door hinges on your fortified entry points, metal containers striking wooden surfaces, water splashing during transfers. Each one is a separate location ping, broadcasting exactly where you are. Military OPSEC doctrine solves this in 20 minutes. Every gram of gear gets secured, padded, or taped before movement. Foam padding inside pack compartments, rubber bands around metal items, cloth wrapping on tool handles. It costs literally nothing. Tape, foam, cloth. And almost nobody actually does it. The real survival paradox? Water collection, one of the most health-critical activities you'll perform, generates some of the loudest acoustic signatures. Water flowing into metal containers, drips echoing through empty rooms, splashing during transfers. You stay hydrated, you get found. Urban survivors learn to conceal generators and dampen sound inside structures. Rural survivors take a completely different approach, timing their movement to match environmental audio, wind, animal sounds, rain. You move when nature gives you cover, and go silent when it doesn't. This rule is pure discipline, zero cost, maximum payoff. But if you think sound is the only thing giving away your position, wait until you hear why the high ground everyone runs to is actually a death trap. Avoid the high ground trap. Every survival instinct you have, every war movie you've ever watched, tells you the same thing. Get to the roof. High ground wins. And in a zombie apocalypse, that instinct will get you killed. Here's the thing. Black commercial rooftops hit 140 to 190 degrees Fahrenheit during peak summer hours. Even white gravel roofs reach 125 to 140 degrees. Standard roofing materials exceed 100 degrees in moderate climates. You cannot live up there during the day. You'll burn through water twice as fast and risk heat stroke before a single zombie even finds you. But the real problem is escape routes. An interior multi-story building gives you windows, alternate stairwells, basement passages, and multiple exit vectors. A rooftop gives you exactly 2 options: walk down the stairs or jump. Now picture this. It's day 4. You're on top of a 6-story office building. It's July. The stairwell is compromised at floors 2 and 3. Your water is on the ground floor. How exactly do you get it? You don't. And then there's the logistics trap that nobody thinks about. Every piece of food, water, ammo, and equipment has to be manually hauled to roof level and lowered again for every scavenging run. Over weeks and months, rooftop groups burn 20 to 40% more energy on logistics alone compared to groups living inside the same building. Max Brooks himself specified in the Zombie Survival Guide that rooftop survival is temporary methodology only, a 72-hour observation post, not a home. Use the roof to scout, live inside. That's the correct frame. But speaking of things you need to grab while you're out scavenging, most people go straight for food and ammo while ignoring the one resource that keeps everything else running: the battery scavenge priority. Everyone stockpiles food and ammo. Almost nobody builds a battery priority list. And that's a fatal mistake, because here's the thing most people don't realize. Gasoline degrades within 3 to 6 months, and it requires a functioning engine to do anything useful. Batteries deliver consistent, usable power for months to years with zero infrastructure. In the long game, batteries win every single time. So let me break down the priority tiers. Tier 1 is communication devices. A single battery-powered portable radio gives your group access to emergency broadcasts, intergroup coordination, and defensive intelligence. Information advantage is literally the difference between walking into an ambush and avoiding it entirely. Tier 2 is headlamps. Hands-free illumination for medical procedures, equipment repair, and nighttime navigation without the noise signature of a generator or the fire risk of candles. You need both hands-free when you're stitching a wound at 2 a.m. Tier 3 is one nobody talks about: portable battery-powered water filters. Contaminated water kills through disease when no medical intervention is available. This single item represents direct mortality prevention. Now here's where the math gets interesting. A single AA battery contains roughly 9,360 joules of energy. That's enough to power a high-efficiency LED headlamp for over 30 hours, or a portable radio for 50-plus hours. They're small, stackable, and require zero maintenance infrastructure. There's also a psychological component. Groups with functioning thermometers and radios retain a sense of informational control that slows mental degradation. Survivors who feel informed make better decisions. Batteries are partly a morale item. Here's a scenario for you. You're in a cleared pharmacy. You can carry either 200 rounds of ammo or every battery in the store. Take the batteries, every time. But if you think batteries are an underrated survival resource, wait until you hear about the one item that's more critical than ammunition itself. Salt is more critical than ammo. Here's a comparison that will rewire how you think about survival. 1 pound of salt costs about 50 cents, takes up almost no space, and can preserve 10 to 15 pounds of meat indefinitely. No refrigeration, no electricity. 1 round of ammo also costs about 50 cents, and it's gone forever the moment you pull the trigger. Now let me explain why that matters. It's month 3. Your group of 8 hunts a 150-pound deer. Great news, right? Without salt, that meat spoils in 3 to 5 days in warm weather. You just lost 80 to 90% of that animal. Weeks of potential nutrition rotting in a pile. But a group that grabbed a 50-pound bag of table salt on day 1, they rubbed salt into that fresh meat, let it dry over 7 to 14 days, store it somewhere cool and protected, and that same deer feeds the group for 3 to 4 weeks. Add smoking to the process and you're looking at 6 months of shelf life. 0 electricity, 0 fuel, 0 complex equipment. Here's the math that nobody runs. 8 survivors need roughly 16 pounds of food per day. That's 112 pounds a week. Hunting is inconsistent. Some weeks you eat, some weeks you don't. Salt preservation is the only mechanism that converts irregular hunting success into consistent, reliable nutrition. And yet, groups stockpile ammunition at 5-to-1 ratios over salt. That's a catastrophic long-term mistake. You can have every weapon on the planet. If you can't preserve food, you starve the moment hunting slows down. This isn't some revolutionary technology either. Salt curing is one of humanity's oldest preservation methods, used for thousands of years before refrigeration existed. The apocalypse doesn't require you to invent anything. It just requires you to remember what worked before electricity. But if you think salt is the most underrated survival resource, wait until you hear about the one piece of equipment that solves your transportation problem and creates an entirely new one: the bicycle maintenance tax. Nobody talks about bikes in the apocalypse, and that's insane. Think about it. No fuel, no engine noise, faster than walking by a factor of 3 or 4. A bicycle is quietly the most powerful personal transportation technology in a world without gasoline. You can cover ground quickly, carry supplies on a rear rack, and do it all without attracting every zombie in a 5-mile radius. But here's the thing. A bicycle only works if you maintain it, and nobody maintains their bike. Not now, not in the apocalypse. Every mile you ride without maintenance is a debt you're accumulating against your own mobility. That's the tax. You either pay it regularly in small, boring increments, or you pay it all at once when your chain snaps 3 miles from a supply cache with a rival group closing in behind you. Let me paint the picture. Your group needs to cover 15 miles to reach a supply drop before someone else does. 3 bikes, all neglected for 6 weeks, because everyone was too busy fortifying walls and rationing food. One chain seizes halfway there. One tire blows flat at mile 12. Now you're down to a single functioning bike and 2 people on foot. Maintenance wasn't a chore you skipped. It was a tactical readiness decision you failed. The fix is stupidly simple. Treat bike upkeep like a scheduled tax, not a crisis you react to. Lubricate the chain regularly. Cooking oil or animal fat works in a pinch. Keep patch kits on hand because they weigh almost nothing and save everything. Check brake cables. Tighten bolts across the frame and wheels. 10 minutes every few days buys you months of reliable transportation. A well-maintained bicycle is silent, fast, and free. A neglected one is a pile of metal that weighs 25 pounds and does nothing for you. But if keeping your bike running sounds tedious, wait until you hear about the single household chemical that might be more valuable than every weapon in your arsenal combined. Bleach is your best friend. Here's a stat that nobody in zombie fiction wants to talk about. More survivors will die from contaminated water and infected wounds than from zombie bites. Not even close. The single most important survival item you can grab isn't a weapon, isn't a med kit, isn't even food. It's a gallon of bleach, $3 to $5, and it will save more lives than every firearm in your group combined. Let me explain. Standard household bleach at 3 to 8% sodium hypochlorite concentration kills essentially everything that can make you sick. E. coli, staph, influenza, fungi, mold spores, parasites. One product, universal coverage. Dilute it right, 1 part bleach to 10 parts water for wiping down surfaces, 2 to 5 parts per million for treating drinking water, and a single gallon covers an entire family group for 6 to 12 months. Now picture 2 groups, same size, same location, same weapons. Group A has a bleach sanitation protocol. Group B doesn't. At the 3-week mark, Group A is healthy and functional. Group B is dealing with dysentery, infected cuts from butchering equipment, and cross-contamination spreading through every water container and food prep surface they own. That infection chain kills more reliably than any zombie horde. But here's the kicker. Bleach also works as a pesticide for disease-carrying insects, functions as a general alkali for chemical processes, and in concentrated form has antifreeze applications. It's an entire infrastructure system in one container. The vulnerability: sodium hypochlorite degrades at roughly 10 to 20% per year, and decomposition accelerates above 70 degrees Fahrenheit. You're racing a degradation clock every day you don't use it. Medical professionals and emergency managers unanimously call bleach foundational survival infrastructure. The gap between what experts prioritize and what zombie fiction emphasizes is widest right here. But if bleach keeps your group alive from the inside, the next rule keeps them alive from the outside: the no-entry marking system. Communication is a survival technology. In a world without phones, without radio, without any digital infrastructure, the ability to leave information behind for others becomes one of the most powerful tools you have. And the simplest version of that tool is paint on a wall. Here's the system. Red marks indicate contaminated or zombie-heavy locations. Yellow means uncertain status. Green means cleared and secured. 3 colors: instant, wordless, universal. A scouting team can assess an entire neighborhood without opening a single door, but here's where most groups fail. They use chalk, they use marker, they use whatever's lying around. And within weeks, weather destroys everything. Rain washes chalk off concrete. Sun bleaches marker into nothing. The only markings that survive across months are carved symbols, industrial paint, or physically constructed indicators. If your marks can't survive a season, they're worthless. Now let's talk advanced encoding. Arrow symbols indicate travel direction. Marker density communicates danger level. A single mark means moderate hazard. Triple marks mean extreme. Groups arriving months later can decode accumulated knowledge from previous survivors without ever meeting them. Silent information transfer across groups that never make direct contact. But the real power isn't just about zombies. Marking systems double as defensive infrastructure against hostile human factions. Perimeter boundaries signaling organized armed resistance. Caches marked for residents who know the code. Trap locations indicated through proprietary symbols outsiders can't read. And this creates a genuine strategic debate. Universal marks maximize information sharing but expose your intel to hostile factions. Proprietary systems protect operational security but sacrifice coordination with allies. Both strategies have real trade-offs. The point is that the choice should be made deliberately, not by default. If you think silent communication is clever, wait until you hear about the medical skill that separates groups who lose people to minor injuries from groups who don't. Learn to suture. You don't need to be a doctor. Let me say that again. You do not need to be a doctor. You need 2 to 3 hours of practice on a rubber mat or a piece of fruit and a $15 suture kit. That's it. That's the gap between a wound that heals and a wound that kills someone you care about 6 days later from infection. Here's the scenario nobody wants to think about. Someone in your group, someone you trust, takes a deep gash on the thigh during a scavenging run. No hospital, no doctor, no pharmacy. Who in your group knows how to close that wound? If the answer is nobody, why? Because the math is brutal. Properly sutured wounds achieve 85 to 95% infection prevention rates. Open or poorly sealed wounds drop to 30 to 50%. In a world without antibiotics, that gap isn't cosmetic. That's the difference between recovery and sepsis. The technique itself is straightforward. Entry point 2 to 3 millimeters beneath the skin surface. Needle placement at 90-degree angles for maximum penetrating force. Systematic progression along wound edges. A standard 5-centimeter wound requires 6 to 8 passes, consuming roughly 1 centimeter of suture material per pass. That efficiency matters when supplies are finite and every centimeter counts. And in a true supply emergency, basic suturing can be performed with heavy-duty thread. It's not ideal, and it increases infection risk compared to medical suture material, but it's functional. It closes wounds. Here's what makes this the most valuable skill on the entire list. Suture material, needle holder, fine forceps, and scissors together weigh less than a pound. The entire capability fits in your pocket. There is no weight to survival value ratio that competes with this. 0, but it's bigger than equipment. Survivors who can confidently address catastrophic bleeding make better decisions during emergencies. Panic-driven wound management kills people. Structured medical response, even at a basic level, changes how your entire group behaves when things go wrong. This skill can be learned in a single afternoon. The training materials exist right now, and once you've learned it, it requires 0 ongoing resource investment. So learn it before you need it, because when you need it, there won't be time. But medical skills only matter if you're alive long enough to use them, and that depends entirely on whether you see threats coming before they they reach your door. The perimeter bell, network. Human sentries fall asleep. They get bored, they get distracted, they get killed. A bell on a fishing line doesn't. Your perimeter alarm system never sleeps, never needs to eat, and never panics. And you can build one from materials in any hardware store. Here's how it works. You set up 3 concentric rings around your settlement. The outer ring sits 30 to 50 yards from your boundaries, giving you maximum warning time. The middle ring at 10 to 20 yards tells you the threat is real and getting closer. The innermost ring, right at your perimeter wall, means it's time to fight. Each ring delivers different information and triggers a different response. Outer ring sounds, increase alert status, move to defensive positions. Middle ring fires, mandatory defensive posture, everyone armed. Innermost ring, immediate combat preparation. This graduated system prevents false alarm fatigue, which is the single biggest failure mode that destroys any warning system's value. If every alarm means panic, people stop reacting to alarms. But here's where it gets elegant. Experienced groups develop bell cadences that communicate threat type. Single ring means minor disturbance. Triple ring means confirmed zombie approach. Sustained ringing means a horde is coming. The bell network becomes a language. Silent, mechanical, tireless. And the maintenance cost is basically zero. A bell on a trigger rope needs occasional inspection and rope replacement, maybe once a year. No batteries, no power grid, no maintenance schedule beyond walking the line every few weeks. You can even improvise replacement rope from plant fibers. This is one of the only defensive systems that actually improves with age as your group refines trigger sensitivity and learns to read the patterns. But the bell network's greatest contribution might surprise you. It's sleep. Survivors who know a mechanical watchman is operating around the clock sleep measurably better than groups relying on human sentry rotation. Better rest means better decisions when emergencies actually happen. That's not a luxury. That's a force multiplier. Now picture this. It's 3 a.m. Your entire group is asleep. A bell on the outer ring sounds once, then again. Then the middle ring fires. People wake up already knowing exactly what's happening and exactly what to do. No confusion, no shouting. Just a community that built something worth protecting and a network of bells keeping watch while the wind moves through the trees. That's what making it looks like. If you enjoyed this video and want to see why you can't survive Resident Evil zombies, click the video on the screen now.